Come on the county, let's have a score. Come on the county, let's have some more. We're all behind you, so never fear. Come on the county, promotion's near. Run lads, shoot lads, give your heart and soul. Run lads, shoot lads, give us all a goal. Run lads, shoot lads, you can do it yet. Come on Newport County, oh, bang it in the net.
Well, hello and welcome to the 1912 Exiles podcast, the original, the biggest, the best Newport County podcast made by the fans, for the fans, brought to you by the Terrace Cymru podcast network and in association with the Riverside Sports Bar, the home of live sport and great burgers in Newport. I'm Ed and I join you not from Rodney Parade, not from my improvised home studio, not even from a pub, but from Rogerston Welfare Grounds, where we are watching Rogerston Women, our featured local team for the season, against Sully Sports Women. And I'm joined by friend of the pod, Simon, aka Hwyligan. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Ed. Yep, really good, thanks.
Excellent. Well, we're going to keep half an eye on this game, and we'll talk a little bit later about Rogerston Women in the season they're having. But we're mostly today going to talk about Newport against Harrogate yesterday, the must-win game, and we won it. Job done.
Yeah, we did. It was, it's all about the result at this stage of the season. It wasn't pretty on the eye. Harrogate, and I think we'll come on to this, were dreadful, I thought. The league table doesn't lie after 43 games. They are where they are for a reason. We had to win the game. We did. And, things look a lot brighter now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. Harrogate were not a good team at all. They like you say, they deserve to be where they are. We made hard work of it. I mean, let's sort of go through the game blow by blow, I suppose. There was a fairly early... Sully Sports have just scored. Lovely finish from the number 9, I think it is. Just chipped it over Abbey in goal. Opening goal yesterday, 10 minutes in. Fantastic through ball from Ben Lloyd. Nathan Opoku, cool as a cucumber with the early goal, settled the nerve. What was your view of that one?
Well, I know a lot of people have said on social media and via the pod, play two up front. Yeah. I mean, that goal was just what happens when you play two up front, because Kroll created the mistake, the poor pass. Lloyd with a brilliant first time pass through to Opoku, but he had the space because he had a striking partner who'd done the hard work and the foraging. It was just so obvious. It was like, that's why we need to play two up front. And it was a great finish, but the fact that we had two strikers putting pressure on their defenders forced a mistake, creating a space, and it was just a really good start, and it just justified everybody's complaints of playing two up front was the way forward. On the two up front thing,
a lot of us were calling for that two up front, and we put something out on Friday night, I think it was, asking what people thought needed to happen, and there was a really clear consensus. I don't think many of us thought that the two would be James Kroll and Nathan Opoku. I think most of us expected CBRs. And likewise, I didn't expect to see Joe Thomas coming back in the side. But both of those two ended up being pivotal. So Fuchs must know what he's doing.
Yeah, he must do. And I think, like yourself, when you look at the team sheet and you look for CBR, and he wasn't even on the bench yesterday. And then all right, we've gone with Opoku. All right, we've got the right structure. We're going with the two up front. Again, with Joe Thomas, you think, well, okay, Shepherd is not available, or we're, no Tom Davis, and we've gone with Joe Thomas. But both of them, like you say, that they scored the goals. But as well as that, I thought Opoku's work rate up front, chasing lost causes, closing them down, and his hold-up play as well, I thought was excellent. He played a lot of the game with his back to the goal, and he did a really good job for us.
Yeah, and I think it got the best out of James Kroll as well. So 1-0, playing well, cruising. We said, I think, yesterday on the socials that other teams score against us and go, right, while they're reeling, we're going to really pile on the pressure and go for the kill. We seem to score goals against teams and then think, well, let's ease off now. We better give them a chance to recover. We didn't push home that advantage. Instead, we sort of sat back a little bit, took our eye off the ball, and Harrogate got that equaliser. I mean, it was obviously incredibly frustrating, but it also felt like a really needless one to give away.
It was. I think it was Delaney who sort of dived in, let their fullback, who was probably their best player, gets the byline. He pulled a nice ball back, and it was a tidy finish. I read something, it was his first goal for about 2 years. They always seem to be against us.
Yeah.
And it was such a a needless goal to give away because they created very, very little. But then once they did score, then all of a sudden their tails were up and they could have gone 2-1 up before half time. Yeah, it's just so frustrating. And at 1-0, we had so many set pieces in particular that we wasted. There was the one free kick moment in the first half where Lloyd got himself into a shooting position and played a pass that went straight out for a goal kick. And I think I mentioned on Blue Sky last night, we around by us in the Hazel, we thought if we get a corner, aren't we just better knocking it out for a throw in in the corners and put them under pressure?
Dave has been saying all season, sat next to me, that we are at our most vulnerable within 30 seconds of having a corner at the opposition end. It's maddening. And then I had to laugh. I chatted briefly at half time to a friend of the pod, Stu, who said, our team would make great social workers. We see a side who are short on confidence and we think, let's build these up, let's show them what they're capable of. And it was, so at half time, it was nervy and it needed that moment of magic. And it came from the boot of Joe Thomas, who I don't think any of us would necessarily have said he's the one who's going to score a sensational goal. But, I mean, what a hit.
Yeah, I don't think he could hit anything sweeter, if he tried 100 times. It's funny because we've won 2 games now at home in recent weeks with superb strikes from 30 yards in the top corner, which is great. I'd like us to score more worked goals as well. We can't rely on 30-yarders, but I mean we'll take them when they come. That's why I was really pleased with the first goal. It was a nice move.
And that being able to play a defence splitting pass, split the lines, like that's when we've done that occasionally this season. It's been great to watch, and I think the frustration is I think we've got the players who can do it, but we haven't necessarily always had the midfield to play the passes to make it happen.
No, and I think as well, I mean, I've been a Ben Lloyd fan pretty much most of the season and thought, we've got there's something here. There's a player there, and he's really improved a lot. Certainly recently as well. The last few weeks he's been consistently playing well. I thought again he had a good game yesterday. We're not really sure where his best position is, and I think that's fair. But he's been quite adaptable. And the pass for the first goal was great. But going back to Joe Thomas's goal, I mean, how he got the power in his legs to get that in the. He's
got long legs.
He's got long legs, but it was so well placed. It was perfect in the top corner. And to be honest, it was no more than we deserved because we had put them under pressure early part of the second half, and fantastic goal to win a game.
So post-match then, 3 points closer to safety, 37 points now. I think the consensus is starting to form that 40 points is the magic line, and we'll kind of come on to that. But just before we talk about the path to safety, my note of caution after that, and I put something up on social media to this effect, was we can't get ahead of ourselves. We can't kid ourselves that performance will be enough against Cheltenham and Oldham and Barrow. We did what we needed to do to win a must-win game against a poor team, and I'm delighted about that. And it's credit to the players for making that happen. But we've got to find another gear now. How confident are you that we can do that, and what do you think needs to change to make that happen?
We've got that in our locker to put that type of performance that would get us a win at Cheltenham and get us a win at home against Oldham, because we've done it. We've beaten Chesterfield at home. We've won at Salford. We've put those performances in. It's just a lack of consistency that means where we are. If we play like we did yesterday, I think it'd be unlikely that we would beat Oldham, for example. But the confidence that result yesterday will have given the squad, everyone was on the floor after losing to Crawley. Everybody seemed to think that was it. We were done for. We had an away game at Notts County. Nobody could see anything coming out of that. Easter Monday, I was wandering around thinking, oh well, this is, we're done for. And here we are now, less than a week away, and we're 4 points clear of the bottom 2. Which, if anyone would have offered you that with 3 games left, at any point in the season from about October onwards, you'd have bitten the hand off. It's well within our capability to get the results. How we do it, playing 2 up front and putting teams under pressure, I think that would help.
And consistent team selection, I think, now as well. I mean, Dave said it a few episodes ago, there's no point resting players in April.
No.
We've now just got to stick with the same 11 and give them the confidence and the stability to now play together as a unit.
Back the players completely, and I would start the same 2 up fronts, and you've got options from the bench. Spellman and Camera are going to give you something different if you do need to change it, but you've got to start with the same two. I think the midfield now almost picks itself because if Cam Evans is on a booking, then you bring Brennan on.
If Cam Evans is on a booking,
and again, he's somebody who's grown massively, I think, in the season. To hold my hand up, there were occasions where you look at the team selections and saw Cam Evans' name and thought, oh dear, but the block that he put in yesterday at 2-1 after he slipped to get back up and put his body on the line, and he's consistently done that in the last few weeks as well. I think what was impressive yesterday, or what was pleasing to see, is that we have got battlers in the squad. It's a team with Lee Jenkins in it. It's not going to go down without a fight. It seems to bring out you've got Cam Evans, who'll put a shift in. When Brennan comes on, he'll throw himself in the way of tackles.
And then, of course, Sven Sprangler, who we were talking about just before we hit record, who I think with every passing game, the consensus is that he is the pivotal signing of the season. Yeah,
he's changed it. Like you said before we started recording, we were musing about Braybrook going and then Sprangler coming in, and he's been such a valuable addition. And yesterday when he went down injured, I think everyone's heart was in their mouth thinking, we really can't afford to lose him for any period of time. But what I like about him is that if he loses the ball, he takes it personally, and it's his mission is then to get it back as soon as possible. And we haven't had that sort of player for such a long time.
Yeah, and there was a great stat which I saw on one of the message boards. It was on the We Are Exiles message board. It was George Guest who said it, that when Fuchs came in, so that was after 16 games of the league season, we were bottom, 24th worst team in the league. By the time we got halfway through the season, we were 23rd, so we'd seen a mild improvement in Fuchs' first kind of 7 games or so. And then over the last 20 matches, we've been the 18th best club in the division. And actually, if you look at the last 10, we've been the 14th best. So there's been tangible improvement and progress, sustained improvement and progress under Fuchs. Is it better to have had those kind of small baby steps that are seemingly built on solid foundations, is my question to you, rather than the gamble of the new manager bounce, which is what other sides, including notably Barrow, have been doing? And I just wonder whether, although, like I say, it's been baby steps and we haven't necessarily always felt it at the time, it's gradually been moving in the right direction. Whereas you look at Barrow and their changing of their manager every fortnight actually may be something that ultimately costs them.
Yeah, I think so. It's been, let's be honest, it's been a difficult season to be a Newport fan, and we'll all be glad when the final whistle blows and we're above the line and we're in the Football League again for next season. I think it has been gradual, and when you listen to stats like that, they may not be immediately obvious to people who watch them every week, that we have improved. It hasn't been a massive improvement. There's been no real sort of game that sort of defined this era where we've pressed every button and we've given somebody a really good hammering or anything like that. It does seem to be gradual. There's been wins here and there and then disappointing defeats, but what I think we're starting to see by the end of the season is that Fuchs is learning as well. I mean, this is his first job in the EFL, or he's a Premier League winner, but he's learning as well. He's made mistakes, and he'll put his hand up, I'm sure, and say that there's games that he's lost because of his selections or substitutions. But I think he's starting to see where the key areas in League Two that you need to focus on. You need a strong midfield, for example. You need central defenders who will throw themselves in front of opportunities that come to the opposition.
I also think that it's testament to his coaching and his coaching team's coaching that the players like Cam Evans, Ben Lloyd, the ones who maybe in the first half of the season were a bit frustrating at times, are now hitting their best form of the season. Now, in some cases, that's going to be because it took them a while to get up to the level, in case of Ben Lloyd, or to get match sharp and all the rest of it. But some of that is also coaching and working out how to get the best out of those players.
And I think next season, if we can keep the nucleus of the squad, there's a few players you'd love to get them in. Sprangler, I think.
Yeah, that's the
we
one.
We all have a win round to keep him, if we had the opportunity. But again, Biggins has been a good player to come in. How he was surplus to requirements at Shrewsbury. I'm not really sure.
Crazy.
Looking at their midfield when we played them, but
well, we're not there yet. And let's get our crystal ball out. So I mean, everyone is looking at the games still to play. Who's got who in the run-in? Who's going to drop points? Big one Tuesday night. Barrow have Oldham, isn't it?
Massive, yeah.
So we've all looked through the fixtures. We all think probably 40 points is the line. Ideally you want to get 41. Before we talk about county within that, let's talk about the other teams. Who are you looking at and thinking, don't fancy their run-in much?
Tranmere Rovers, I think, have a difficult run in, and I was really surprised they got the point yesterday at Chesterfield. If they hadn't got that, we would have been above them. They would have been starting to look closer to the trapdoor. I know they've been the team that's been in free fall since January. They appear to have somehow got 30 points by Christmas, despite the fact that every time you watch them, they didn't look very good. Yeah. And now they just seem that they can't buy a win. They missed the penalty yesterday as well, and I just think that they could be that one that just slips through the net. And I think Harrogate are done. I think it just because that the game against us was their real opportunity to get 3 points. They didn't take it. They didn't look like winning the game either. Their best hope was that we gifted them the opportunity for a draw.
It's hard to chart where they now get the wins if they couldn't win that one. I mean, then Barrow, I think so much depends on that game in hand. Psychologically,
it does.
That's the one to watch. But the other thing that I was saying yesterday on the socials is the next two games county you've got away at Cheltenham, at home to Oldham. You don't want to go into Barrow on the last day needing something. No. So we've got to set up attacking for those next couple of games and try and get a win. Even if we drew both of those two, you're still worrying on the last day. So I think we've got to go for it now. Treat it almost as though those two individual games are must wins, and just try to get a win from one of them. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does, you can then sort of go to Barrow with the pressure off a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. 2 points from 2 draws. Earlier in the season would have been good, but I think we just need that 3 points to get to that 40-point mark, which let's be honest is a low bar to staying in the division. But let's get to those 40 points sooner rather than later, and then like you, I wouldn't fancy our chances if we had to go to Barrow and get a win or get a draw to guarantee safety. There's so many potential pitfalls. We've seen how bad referees can be in this division.
And knowing what former players etc. do, the fact they've got Sam Foley in charge, Graham Copland as assistant. I mean, Graham Copland would love, I'm sure, to put one over Hugh Jenkins, but so we've just got to get over that line, and then we can start having the inquest about how we make sure this doesn't happen again next season. But that's one for another day. Well, look, we will leave it there. This game is still evenly poised, 1-0 in the glorious sunshine. Before we finish, I do need to say, listeners, we're going to have a bonus episode out midweek. So many of you will have seen that Newport County's accounts came out recently. We are not qualified accountants, but we know a man who is an expert. So we have managed to get the football finance expert Kieran Maguire to come on the pod. He had a chat late last week with Jamie and Reese. So that is in edit currently and will be out, we think, on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. And the other parish notice to give you is that we will have our second ever live at the Riverside event coming up after the Oldham game. So after the Oldham game, head over to the Riverside Sports Bar, have a beer, come and have a chat with me and Jack. And hopefully at that point we can celebrate safety. But for now, Simon, thank you very much for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, Ed.
And thank you all for listening, and look after yourselves and each other, and above all, as always, keep it county.
As we begun, the final chorus will now begin. So all together, let's all join in. Run lads, shoot lads, give your heart and soul. Run lads, shoot lads, give us all a go. Run lads, shoot lads, you can do it yet. Come on Newport County.